The blue light on the command console blinked 3 times before Captain Olivia Martins noticed it. She had been awake for nearly 20 hours straight, and the coffee in her mug had long gone cold. The Trailblazer, humanity's most advanced spaceship, floated at the edge of the solar system on its maiden voyage. "Captain, we're picking up an unusual signal," said Lieutenant Greg Wilson, his eyes fixed on the monitor. "It's not one of ours." Olivia straightened in her chair. "Show me." The main screen filled with strange symbols and patterns that shifted and changed. The bridge fell silent as the crew stared at what they all knew was humanity's first contact with alien life. "Send this to Dr. Williams immediately," Olivia ordered. Noah Williams was Earth's best xenolinguist, a man who had spent his life preparing for this moment. 3 days later, the alien ship arrived. It was massive, at least 5 times the size of the Trailblazer, and shaped like a smooth silver leaf. It stopped just 100 kilometers away. "They're hailing us, Captain," Greg said, his voice steady despite the tension. "Open the channel," Olivia replied. The screen flickered, and a tall, thin figure appeared. Its skin was pale blue with faint patterns like marble. Large, dark eyes blinked slowly at the camera. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in nearly perfect English. "I am Ambassador Xylith of the Galactic Council, representing 317 spacefaring species. We have been observing your civilization and deem you ready for first contact." Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. People celebrated in the streets, religious leaders held special services, and governments around the world called emergency meetings. At the United Nations building in New York, Dr. Noah Williams hunched over screens filled with the alien text, working with his team to understand the document the Council had sent, the terms for Earth to join the galactic community. "This can't be right," Noah muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. "Check the translation again." His assistant, Mia Johnson, looked over his shoulder. "I've run it through the program 3 times. The translation holds." Noah stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the crowd gathered outside. They were celebrating, unaware of what he had just discovered. "Get me the Secretary General," he said. Now. 2 days later, in a secure room beneath the Pentagon, Earth's top leaders gathered around a large table. The President of the United States, the Russian Premier, the Chinese chairman, and leaders from a dozen other nations sat in tense silence as Noah Williams explained his findings. "The Council's offer isn't what it seems," Noah said, pointing to sections of the translated document displayed on the wall screen. "They're demanding a 30% tax on all Earth resources, restrictions on our technology development, and a probationary period of 50 years where we would have no voting rights in the Council." "That's not membership," said President Diane Carter. "That's subjugation." General Frank Delgado, head of the newly formed United Earth Defense Force, leaned forward. "There's more. This section here basically gives them the right to place observers, military forces, anywhere in our solar system they want." The room erupted in angry discussion. When it quieted, the EU president spoke up. "But do we have a choice? They clearly have technology far beyond ours." Olivia Martinez, who had been called back to Earth for this meeting, stood up. "With all due respect, we always have a choice. The Trailblazer's scans picked up energy readings from their ship. They're advanced, yes, but perhaps not as much as they want us to believe." Noah nodded. "And their language contains inconsistencies. I think they're used to dealing with species who don't question them." President Carter looked around the room. "Then let's do what humans do best. Let's question everything and prepare a counteroffer. Ambassador Xylith is about to learn that humans don't just roll over." The meeting lasted through the night. By morning, Earth had its answer for the Galactic Council. It wasn't the one they were expecting. The Council ship's docking bay was enormous. Jack Morrison straightened his tie as the shuttle doors opened. As Earth's top diplomat, he had negotiated with the toughest world leaders, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Remember, no signs of weakness," whispered Major Samantha Klein, the military advisor standing beside him. Her hand rested near her sidearm, more out of habit than any expectation of using it. Jack nodded and stepped forward. A group of 5 different alien species waited for them. Ambassador Xylith stood in the center, flanked by creatures that looked nothing like each other. One was short and stocky with orange skin, another tall and insect-like. "Welcome aboard the Celestial Envoy," Xylith said. "We trust you've come to sign the membership agreement." Jack smiled politely. "Actually, Ambassador, we've come to present Earth's counteroffer." The reaction was immediate. The insect-like alien clicked rapidly. The orange one stepped back, as if physically struck. Xylith's marble-patterned skin darkened noticeably. "Counteroffer." Xylith's voice had lost its smoothness. "There is no counteroffer. The terms are standard for all new species." Jack opened his tablet and displayed a holographic document. "Earth appreciates the Council's offer, but we find several terms unacceptable. We've prepared an alternative that benefits both parties." One of the aliens, who had not yet spoken, moved closer. This one had feathers instead of hair and bright yellow eyes. "In 14,000 years, no species has ever presented a counteroffer," it said in a musical voice. "Then perhaps it's time for a change," Samantha replied. The aliens led them through long corridors into a grand chamber where dozens of different species sat in tiered seating. Jack noticed some looking at the humans with curiosity, others with what seemed like disdain. As Jack presented Earth's proposal, the chamber grew increasingly noisy. Aliens turned to each other, gesturing and speaking in various languages. A few rose from their seats and left abruptly. "You propose only a 5% resource contribution instead of 30%, asked a large reptilian creature, "and full voting rights immediately." "Yes," Jack said firmly. "Earth enters as an equal partner or not at all." One alien, smaller than the rest with deep purple skin, approached Jack after the presentation. "I am Kelto of the Tellurians," it said quietly. "What you did today was brave. Some of us remember when our terms were adjusted after joining. Not all in the Council are pleased with the current system." Before Jack could respond, a booming voice filled the chamber. A massive alien with what looked like silver armor for skin descended to the chamber floor. "I am High Minister Graf Full," it announced. "For millennia, the Galactic Council has maintained order among the stars. New species are guided until they understand our ways. Your counteroffer shows Earth does not yet comprehend its place in the greater universe." Jack stood his ground. "Earth understands perfectly, Minister. We simply believe in fair treatment and mutual respect." Graf Full made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Admirable but naive. The Council has spoken. Accept our generous offer or remain isolated. Those are your only options." The human delegation was escorted back to their shuttle. As they prepared to depart, Ambassador Xylith approached Jack privately. "Your species misunderstands the situation," Xylith said, voice low. "No race has ever rejected Council terms. The consequences could be significant." "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" Jack asked. "A reality. Some Council members already call humans dangerous, unpredictable. They fear what you might become." Samantha joined them. "They should," she said calmly. Back on their shuttle, Jack looked at the massive Council ship through the viewport. "Do you think they'll negotiate?" he asked Samantha. She shook her head. "No, but they've shown us something important today." "What's that?" "Fear," Samantha replied. "For all their technology and power, they're afraid of us. And that gives Earth an advantage they never expected us to have." As their shuttle headed home, the real work was just beginning. Earth had to prepare for whatever came next. The United Earth Government building in Geneva buzzed with activity. Security personnel lined the halls as world leaders filed into the main chamber. This emergency session had only one item on the agenda: the Council's ultimatum. President Diane Carter stood at the podium, her face grim yet determined. The room fell silent as she began to speak. 2 days ago, our delegation returned from the Galactic Council with their response. Accept their original terms or remain isolated from the galactic community. No negotiation, no compromise. Screens around the chamber displayed the full details of the Council's demands. The Russian premier was the first to respond. These terms would cripple Earth's economy and leave us defenseless, he said, pointing to specific clauses. They want our resources but offer little in return. The Chinese chairman nodded in agreement, and these technology restrictions would keep us permanently dependent on them. President Carter looked around the room. We have a choice to make. Do we surrender our independence for the sake of joining this council, or do we stand firm? The debate lasted hours. Some argued that isolation might be worse than unfair terms. Others insisted that Earth needed to demonstrate strength from the beginning. Colonel Frank Delgado presented the military assessment. We've analyzed the scans from the Trailblazer. The Council has advanced technology, but their ships show signs of being old, maintained but not improved for centuries. This suggests stagnation. On the other side of the building, Professor Ethan Murphy led a team of scientists studying the alien technology data collected during the delegation's visit. He burst into the chamber, interrupting the debate. Madam President, we've made a breakthrough, he announced. Their shield technology. We think we can replicate it, maybe even improve it. Ethan pulled up diagrams on the main screen. Their systems rely on principles similar to our experimental quantum barrier project. With focused effort, we could have functional prototypes within months, not years. This news shifted the mood of the room. If Earth could accelerate its defensive capabilities, rejection of the Council's terms became less risky. President Carter called for a vote. One by one, the world leaders made their choice. The decision was unanimous. Earth would reject the Council's ultimatum. Very well, President Carter said. Now we prepare. Colonel Delgado, accelerate our defense preparations. Professor Murphy, you have whatever resources you need for shield development. And everyone should understand, this decision may have consequences. As the meeting disbanded, Noah Williams approached the president. Madam President, I've been studying more of the Council's historical documents they shared. Something doesn't add up. Explain, she said. The Council claims to have 317 member species, but I can only find references to about 200 in their historical records. And there are odd gaps in their timeline. Almost as if what, Dr. Williams? As if some species disappeared from the record entirely. The implications hung in the air. What happened to those missing species? Did they reject the Council as Earth was doing now? Later that evening, Jack Morrison drafted Earth's formal response to the Galactic Council. The message was respectful but firm. Earth declined the current terms and remained open to fair negotiation as equals. Are you sure about this? Samantha Klein asked as they prepared to transmit the message. Once we send this, there's no going back. Jack looked at the gathered leaders, each face showing resolve despite the uncertainty ahead. Earth has faced challenges throughout our history, President Carter answered. Each time, we've emerged stronger. We won't begin our journey among the stars by kneeling. The message was sent. In the coming days, defensive satellites were deployed, military forces went on alert, and Professor Murphy's team worked around the clock on the shield technology. Earth had made its decision. Now they would face whatever came next. Together. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council erupted in chaos. Ambassador Xylith stood at the center, Earth's rejection message still displayed on the massive screen behind him. This is unprecedented, shouted a Drakari representative, his scaled face flushed dark green with anger. No species has ever rejected our terms. High Minister Graf Fold raised his metallic arms, calling for order. The humans have made their choice. Now we must make ours. The council members broke into heated debates. Some demanded immediate action to show other species that rejection had consequences. Others called for patience and further study of this unusual human behavior. Three distinct factions quickly formed. The dominants, led by the militaristic Drakari, insisted that humans must be contained before they influenced other species. The progressives, a smaller group including the Tellurians, argued that perhaps the Council's approach to new species needed reconsideration. The cautious, the largest faction, wanted more information before any decision. "These humans are dangerous," Admiral Zervac of the Drakari declared. "Their rejection sets a dangerous precedent. We must act now." Kelto of the Tellurians stepped forward. "Perhaps the dangerous precedent is not their rejection, but our unwillingness to negotiate fairly. For too long, we've treated new species as resources rather than partners." As the debate raged, a council member named Lisa Chen listened carefully. Few knew that Lisa Chen was not her real name. She was actually Maria Alvarez, a deep-cover human agent who had been surgically altered to appear as a minor council species. She had infiltrated years earlier through a complex operation involving a captured scout ship and faked credentials. When the session ended, Maria slipped away to her private quarters. She activated a quantum entanglement communicator hidden in her personal items. "Eagle to nest," she whispered. "The Council is fracturing over Earth's decision. The dominants are pushing for military action. Suggest immediate defense preparations." Back on Earth, President Carter received Maria's message. She immediately called Colonel Delgado and the Defense Council. "Our agent reports possible military action," she told them. "How soon can Murphy's shield technology be deployed?" "The first satellites are ready now," Delgado replied. "Not perfect, but functional. We can have full coverage within 2 weeks." On the Council station, the dominants weren't waiting for full approval. Admiral Zervac ordered the preparation of a containment fleet, 20 warships meant to blockade Earth's solar system. "We'll call it a precautionary measure," he told his supporters. "By the time the cautious realize what's happening, we'll have the humans surrounded." Maria observed these preparations and sent another urgent message to Earth. Meanwhile, Kelto of the Tellurians approached her after a council session. "You seem concerned about the humans," Kelto said, studying her carefully. Maria maintained her cover. "I'm concerned about council unity. This human situation is dividing us." Kelto leaned closer. "What if division is necessary? Many species have suffered under current policies. The Arnaxians lost their outer colonies. My people surrendered our advanced drive technology. Perhaps these humans are showing us another path." "You sound dangerously close to supporting their rejection," Maria replied carefully. "Not just me. Several council races are watching with great interest. Some have already made private contact with Earth." This was news to Maria. She hadn't been informed of other alien contact. Back in Earth orbit, the first defensive satellites powered up. Their shields hummed with energy based on Professor Murphy's adapted technology. Admiral Ryan Cooper, commander of Earth's small but advanced fleet, reviewed the deployment strategy. "Position the Trailblazer and her sister ships here, and here," he instructed his officers, pointing to key positions in the solar system. "If they come, we need early warning." Unknown to both Earth and the Council, a small ship had broken away from the celestial envoy. Its pilot, a Council weapons inspector named Kraz Tull, had made a life-changing decision. He was defecting to warn Earth about what was coming. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change galactic politics forever. Kraz Tull's small ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. His four-fingered hands trembled slightly as he activated the communication system. "Attention Earth vessels. I am Kraz Tull of the Vexor species, Council weapons inspector. I come with urgent information and request asylum." The response was swift. 2 Earth ships appeared, their weapons locked on his vessel. "Remain where you are," came the reply. "Any movement will be considered hostile." 6 hours later, Kraz Tull sat in a secure room at Earth Defense Headquarters. Colonel Delgado and Professor Murphy studied him with cautious interest. "Why should we trust you?" Delgado asked. Kraz Tull's skin, normally a pale green, darkened with emotion. Because I've seen this before. The dominants label a species dangerous, then use containment as an excuse for resource seizure. My own homeworld lost its outer colonies this way. He activated a small device, projecting detailed schematics into the air. This is the containment fleet now heading toward Earth. 20 warships, led by the Drakari dreadnought Immutable Will. Professor Murphy stepped closer to the projection. These energy signatures, they match our theoretical models. Yes, Kraz Tull said. Your scientist is perceptive. The Council's technology has weaknesses. They rely on overwhelming force, not innovation. For centuries, they've suppressed technological advancement among member species. This information was relayed to President Carter, who called an emergency meeting with Admiral Cooper and his fleet commanders. Our shield satellites are operational, Admiral Cooper reported. But we have only 7 warships against their 20. Quality over quantity, President Carter replied. Professor Murphy believes their technology has vulnerabilities we can exploit. Meanwhile, Earth's defensive grid was coming online. Hundreds of satellites formed a protective network around the planet, each equipped with Murphy's shield technology. The professor had made remarkable progress, improving on the Council's designs by incorporating quantum principles the aliens had never explored. They'd grown complacent, Murphy explained to the defense team. They haven't truly innovated in centuries. We've learned more studying their tech for weeks than they have in decades of using it. On the diplomatic front, Jack Morrison worked tirelessly to build alliances. The Tellurians had officially reached out, followed by the Arnaxians and 4 other species who had suffered under Council policies. We're building a coalition, Jack told President Carter. Species who believe the Council needs reform. Samantha Klein, now promoted to colonel, supervised the military training. Earth forces practiced new tactics designed specifically to counter Council technology. Their ships are powerful but predictable, she told her pilots. They fight like they negotiate, expecting everyone to follow their rules. In orbit, the Trailblazer and its sister ships took up defensive positions. Captain Olivia Martinez commanded the fleet's flagship, now equipped with enhanced shields and weapons based on Murphy's research. All ships report ready, her communications officer said. Good, Olivia replied. Now we wait. She didn't have to wait long. Earth's long-range sensors detected the Council fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit. 20 ships, just as Kraz Tull had warned. Admiral Cooper joined President Carter in the Situation Room. The containment fleet has arrived, Madam President. Open a channel, she ordered. Let's see if they're willing to talk before things get messy. As Earth prepared for first contact of a different kind, Maria Alvarez continued her work within the Council. She discovered that several Council members were secretly hoping Earth would succeed in its defiance. The rigid hierarchy had stifled many species for too long. This human situation is becoming a rallying point, one Council member whispered to another, unaware that Maria could hear them. If they managed to resist successfully, the implication was clear. Earth's stand wasn't just about one planet's freedom. It might change the course of galactic politics forever. The containment fleet moved closer. Earth's defenses tracked their approach. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity's place among the stars. The Council fleet spread out in a wide formation near Jupiter. Their ships were massive, some nearly a mile long, with sleek designs that spoke of centuries of refinement. Admiral Zervac stood on the bridge of the Immutable Will, his scaled face set in a stern expression. The humans have deployed defensive satellites, his sensor officer reported. Primitive, but numerous. Zervac flicked his tongue dismissively. A gesture of defiance, nothing more. Open a channel to their leaders. On Earth, President Carter watched as the alien admiral's face appeared on the main screen. The Drakari's yellow eyes showed no hint of compromise. People of Earth, Zervac began, your rejection of Council terms has been deemed a potential threat to galactic stability. We have arrived to ensure your compliance with established protocols. President Carter stood tall. Admiral, Earth recognizes no authority to dictate terms to sovereign worlds. We remain open to fair negotiation as equals, but we will not be intimidated. Intimidation is unnecessary when dealing with facts, Zervac replied. Fact: your species is new to interstellar travel. Fact: the Council has maintained galactic order for 14,000 years. Fact: your continued defiance will result in isolation that will harm your people. Colonel Delgado leaned toward the president. He's stalling. Their ships are moving into containment positions. President Carter nodded. Admiral, we've noted your fleet's movements. We consider any attempt to blockade Earth an act of aggression. Zervac's expression didn't change. We are merely establishing an observation perimeter, as is our right when dealing with potentially destabilizing situations. The conversation was getting nowhere. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Ben Harris, one of Earth's most skilled pilots, was given a special mission. His small diplomatic vessel, disguised with minimal weapons, approached the Council fleet under a flag of truce. "This is Lieutenant Ben Harris of Earth," he transmitted. "I carry a final diplomatic proposal from our government." It was partly true. He did carry a message, but his main purpose was to scan the Council ships up close, gathering data on their shield frequencies and weapon systems that couldn't be detected from a distance. Ben was escorted to the Immutable Will. As he walked through the massive ship, his specialized equipment hidden in his uniform recorded everything. The Council's overconfidence worked in his favor. They barely scanned him, assuming a primitive human could pose no threat. On the bridge, Admiral Zervac received the Earth proposal with obvious disdain. "These terms are even more unacceptable than before," he said, tossing the data tablet aside. "You demand equal standing. You've barely left your own planet." Ben kept his composure. Perhaps age isn't the only measure of a species' worth. Innovation and adaptability count for something too. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Take this human back to his vessel. Then prepare a warning demonstration." As Ben's ship departed, he transmitted all the gathered data back to Earth. Professor Murphy received it with excitement. "This confirms our theories. Their shield harmonics have a fluctuation pattern we can exploit." But there was no time to celebrate this intelligence victory. The Immutable Will fired a massive energy beam at Europa, Jupiter's icy moon. The research station there, home to 30 scientists, exploded in a blinding flash. "A warning," Zervac transmitted to Earth. "Next time, it will be your orbital stations. Submit to Council authority now." The attack on Europa changed everything. President Carter's face hardened. That station was unarmed. "This is not containment, it's aggression. Admiral Cooper, you have my authorization to defend Earth by any means necessary." Earth's ships moved into formation. The Trailblazer led the small but determined fleet toward the Council Armada. Captain Olivia Martinez addressed her crew. "They expect us to cower or to fight foolishly against superior numbers," she said calmly. "We will do neither. Execute Plan Thunderbolt." Earth's ships suddenly accelerated to incredible speeds, their new drives pushing beyond what Council technology could achieve. The defensive satellites activated in sequence, creating a complex web of energy fields. The Council fleet fired, expecting to easily overwhelm the human defenses. Instead, their weapons encountered shields that adapted and strengthened with each hit. Admiral Zervac's confidence began to waver as the humans executed maneuvers his ships couldn't match. For the first time in centuries, the Drakari faced an enemy that didn't follow the expected script. The battle for Earth's independence had begun. News of the battle near Jupiter spread quickly across Council space. Maria Alvarez, still undercover as Lisa Chen, watched the Council chambers erupt in disbelief as the first reports arrived. "Impossible," shouted a senior Drakari representative. "How can 7 human ships hold against our fleet?" The answer came through visual feeds. Earth vessels darted between the larger Council ships with unexpected speed. Their shields flickered but held against weapons that should have destroyed them instantly. Most shocking of all, the humans were targeting specific weak points in Council ship designs with uncanny accuracy. They've analyzed our technology, one council scientist realized aloud. They found weaknesses we didn't know existed. High Minister Graf Full called for calm. This is a temporary setback. Admiral Zervac will adjust tactics and prevail. But Maria could see the truth in their eyes. The council members were experiencing something they hadn't felt in centuries: uncertainty. On dozens of worlds throughout council space, the news spread through unofficial channels. Species that had lived under restrictive council policies for generations watched with growing interest as humans defied the undefendable. The Tellurians were the first to act. Kelto addressed an emergency session of the council. "The humans have demonstrated they will not be subjugated," Kelto stated firmly. "The Tellurian Union formally recognizes Earth's right to self-determination and fair treatment." Gasps echoed through the chamber. A council member breaking ranks was unprecedented. "This is treason," a dominant faction member shouted. "No," Kelto replied calmly. "This is progress. For too long, the Council has treated new species as resources rather than partners. The Tellurians stand with Earth in demanding reform." Within hours, the Arnaxians made a similar declaration. By the end of the day, 5 more species had joined what was quickly being called the Reform Coalition. Maria sent urgent reports to Earth. "Your resistance is inspiring others. The Council is facing internal pressure like never before." Back in the solar system, the battle continued. 3 council ships had been disabled, their advanced weapons useless against Earth's unexpectedly adaptive defenses. The Trailblazer had taken damage but remained operational, its shields reconfiguring faster than the council weapons could adjust. Admiral Zervac faced a difficult decision. His fleet was not winning the easy victory he had promised. Worse, news of the Reform Coalition had reached his crew, causing whispers of doubt. "We should withdraw and request reinforcements," his second-in-command suggested. "Retreat. Before humans." Zervac snarled. "Unthinkable. Prepare the gravity lance." The gravity lance was a weapon of last resort, capable of creating a localized distortion that could tear a planet's crust apart. Using it against a populated world was forbidden by council law, but Zervac was beyond caring about rules. What he didn't know was that Earth had intercepted his ship's communications. Professor Murphy and his team worked frantically to counter this new threat. "The lance creates a focused gravity well," Murphy explained to President Carter. "If we can generate an opposite field at the moment of impact." The president didn't hesitate. "Do whatever you need to. We cannot let that weapon fire." Throughout council space, protests began on dozens of worlds. Citizens who had never questioned council authority were now demanding answers. Why were resources always flowing toward the center? Why were technological innovations suppressed? Why couldn't species negotiate fair terms? The dominant faction leaders watched in alarm as centuries of control began to unravel. Emergency meetings were called. Plans were made to suppress the growing unrest. "This human problem has become a contagion," one Drakuri elder hissed. "It spreads beyond Earth now." In her secure quarters, Maria Alvarez allowed herself a small smile as she transmitted her latest report to Earth. The message was simple but profound. "It's working. Keep holding on." The Council is beginning to crack. The battle for Earth had become something much larger, a potential turning point in the history of the galaxy itself. Admiral Zervac stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship. The gravity lance powered up, its energy core glowing with dangerous intensity. He had one chance to turn this humiliating battle into victory. "Target Earth's moon," he ordered. "A demonstration they cannot ignore." But as the weapon prepared to fire, alarms blared across his ship. The Trailblazer and 2 other Earth vessels had positioned themselves in a triangle formation around the immutable will. Energy patterns unlike anything in council records surrounded the Drakuri flagship. "What are they doing?" Zervac demanded. His science officer's voice shook. "They're creating some kind of resonance field that's interfering with the gravity lance." The weapon's energy began to backflow into its housing. Warning signals flashed across control panels. "Shut it down," Zervac ordered, but it was too late. The gravity lance collapsed in on itself, causing a cascade failure throughout the ship's systems. The mighty Immutable will drifted powerless in space. At that moment, new ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Council reinforcements had arrived, but they weren't alone. Tellurian vessels, Arnaxian cruisers, and ships from 5 other species formed a protective line between Earth and the newcomers. "This is Ambassador Kelto of the Reform Coalition," came the transmission to all ships. "The conflict ends now. We propose an immediate ceasefire and diplomatic conference." The commander of the Council reinforcements faced an unexpected situation. Half the Council was now openly supporting Earth. Fighting would mean civil war within the Council itself. "We accept the ceasefire," the commander replied after a tense pause. 3 weeks later, representatives from Earth and all Council species gathered on a neutral space station. The old Council chamber had been redesigned with a circular table, symbolizing the equality of all participants. High Minister Grav Full had been removed from power. In his place, a temporary leadership council included representatives from various factions, including the Reform Coalition. Captain Olivia Martinez and Dr. Noah Williams led Earth's delegation. Maria Alvarez, her cover identity no longer needed, joined them as Earth's intelligence advisor. "We gather to draft a new galactic charter," began the session moderator, "one based on mutual respect and fair treatment of all species." The negotiations weren't easy. Centuries of hierarchy and unfair policies couldn't be undone in days. But the foundation was being built for something better. Earth's resistance had inspired dozens of species to demand changes. The Council's practice of exploiting new civilizations ended. Technology sharing replaced technology restrictions. Resource contributions were adjusted to fair levels. "We should thank Admiral Zervac," Noah remarked privately to Olivia during a break. His arrogance revealed weaknesses in Council technology that might have taken us decades to discover otherwise. Olivia smiled. Human adaptability versus alien complacency. Not a fair fight, really. After a month of intensive negotiations, the new Galactic Cooperative was formed. Earth received full membership with equal voting rights. The technology restrictions were replaced with collaborative research initiatives. Resource taxation was reduced to reasonable levels. Back on Earth, President Carter addressed the United Earth government with Kraz Toll, now Earth's first alien ambassador, at her side. "Today marks a new chapter in human history," she said. "We stood firm when pressured. We fought when necessary. But most importantly, we inspired others to seek fairness and respect." She raised a glass of champagne. "To the Galactic Cooperative, where all species stand as equals." Kraz Toll raised his glass as well. "And to humans, who taught the galaxy that even the oldest traditions should be questioned when they no longer serve justice." In the years that followed, Earth became a center for technological innovation in the cooperative. The rigid hierarchy that had stifled progress for centuries gave way to collaborative advancement. Species that had once been exploited now thrived as equal partners. And throughout the galaxy, the story spread of how humans, in their first encounter with galactic politics, had changed everything by simply refusing to accept unfair terms. Sometimes the greatest diplomacy was knowing when to reject diplomacy altogether.